Now you're recording.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. How will phone no take? Is he gonna phone you?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll send me a text, so I'll keep an eye for my text as well too.
Okay.
Starting.
Remember me from Weston School when he was just a little boy.
Yes,
I was
I
his school
remember.
principal. Yeah. So I've known him a long time, and I know many stories about your family that he tells me, but I would like to hear you tell them. Okay. So I'll ask the question in English.
Okay.
You repeat it in Hmong,
Okay.
and then you can talk in Hmong.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
And then you tell me the translation,
Okay.
and you tell us when you want us to stop so we don't have so much to remember.
Okay.
But you don't have to, at this point, you don't have to tell me every word. You just tell me where the conversation is going.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So the first thing I would like Mr. Xiong to do is to tell us his whole name and the day he was born. What is his birthday?
Okay. Có lúc nói nhiều thế có lúc bày nè. Thầy bày thế luôn.
Cô rong xuyên này, cái tiền nó nói giờ lúc lâu đến tôi vẫn thích cầu ý, xong ấp hà ý nó, cô rong xuyên của tổ tổ của nó, chỉ do giấc kho cô tổ giờ lăng ít tổ phong dư là giờ ít tổ này nhắc trong đời nọ nữa ho nhà có cô tổ tháo bên cái lỗ của nó, cô giấc kho story chain là cô rong xuyên, cái cung bê hồ năng hử xong, cô lúc nó dư giờ lúc cổ ở liền tôi vẫn thích bê xong chỉ cho gì.
I am very happy to be able to be here today. Today is April 11th, 2021. I want to express my appreciation to Yi's friend, like Yiling's friend, or Yiling's mentor, for giving me this opportunity and asking me to be here. My name is Ninghu Xiong. My birthday is December 3rd, 1958.
He's happy to be here, that you are willing to interview him. His name is Xiong, and he was born, lúc có thì nó biết, 12 December 3rd, it was in
Chỉ cho gì?
58.
58. You should move a little closer to me. You really will be safe from me.
Okay.
Okay.
You need my voice in it too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I should take notes so I
Well,
remember what he said.
we want to hear your voice here when you come.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that tells me that you were just teenager during the war.
Thì giờ lên là thì thầu có thầu là sĩ tuần là thì có những chuyện giờ ở nhà đi mình nhớ giàu xứ thì có một cái chất sông là
Cô nhà có bao nhiêu này?
có thể có bao nhiêu là bị hả thì
I-
có chất
I was married.
còn đó này
Lúc trai này có thể cô dạy cho cô gì? Cô trong năng cổ răng đấy.
At that time, I was about 20 years old. At that time, I was about 18 or 20 years old.
ok
À, sĩ cô tôi tôi được thấy thế cũng mất cho năng cổ khí, chỉ có mất cho thì cho được cô tên đông đời của tôi mà năng cổ khí xong rồi.
mình có chỉ
But when I came to Thailand, when I came to Thailand, I put down on my documents that I was 25 years old. So you can go ahead and put down 25 years old.
thầu lấy sĩ tuần là nó bị hả okay so he was married at that time he was between 18 to 20 but according to his legal papers he's 25.
Okay.
Because a lot of more people, when we came overseas here, we changed our birth dates and stuff like that. So legally on paper, he's 25, but he was 18, between 18 to 20 at that time.
Good. I'm going to need you to sit here. So your voice is very small, and you talk there, and I'll go over here because my voice is loud. Okay. And that way, when you talk, you just aim towards the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thì để lúc xuống chính cho anh nè. Chẳng cái gì.
So you were married during the war, Is it the same wife that you have today or a different wife?
Nó hay theo thầu mà chỗ tròn là thì có cái yếu quan niệm là tại vì nó có chừng yếu tụ quan niệm của lấy tụ chỉ yếu là nó
lúc chạy là cho ta xin nó chỉ cho tụi cô lại.
From then to now, it's no longer the same wife. From then until now, I am no longer married to the same wife.
Okay. At the moment, he is not married to the wife anymore.
They divorced.
Yep, they're divorced.
Was he a soldier during the war?
Có với hệ thống thả hẳn nó với sản đó.
Cú chỉ cho ta sẽ cú ở tụi tin lâu nửa và u thà hàng trong CIA thì và cho nó vong phào rồi và u cho CIA rồi xong xa chỗ yên là cú ở tụi tin lâu sẽ cho lúc xí hơn đấy.
I was not a soldier. However, my two older brothers were soldiers serving under the CIA and General Powell, who unfortunately, they both passed away in 1970s during the war.
Okay. His two oldest brothers were soldiers with the CIA and General Powell. They both passed away in between 1970 and 1971.
Okay. Did they die in Laos?
Là xỉa nhá cho tới thấm lâu nó bị
Sẽ cho lúc chạy thầu CIA lâu cho nhà đồ cũng là tên.
My two brothers passed away during the Vietnam War conflict in Laos.
They fortunately passed away in Laos during that war.
Okay. Were they killed in the war or did they die of disease?
Tôi ngờ xỉa vì mất cho lấy ngờ xỉa vì hay tiêu mò sự.
Cho coi cho nó một sinh đầu sinh tua cho tròn đó hả?
Thì tôi kể về họ cho là bị họ.
Cho tròn là sinh đầu sinh tua là nhớ la còn được.
My brothers were killed in action during the war. They were actually fighting against the Vietnam and was killed in action.
They both passed away from war.
Oh, very sad. Where did your family live? In Sinquan province or Huapan province or Luan Pabong? Which province did your family live?
Sẽ có bọn cho cá tới thầm lo này nhớ cho lu lá từ.
Học tới cho là chùa nó chỉ bên nhau cho hôm ngừng cha lúc xí hận đấy tụi bé quay khám nhớ cho dây cho lông chén tới rồiวันนี้bố sau lông chén giờ lông chén theo quay khám là chỉ nhớ chỉ dây sẽ chỉ lúc chơi tụi cũng tiêu lông để xỉa chỉ bé là nhớ dây cho lông chén còn đấy.
Good.
We lived near Minh Chan or Hoa Can, which is close to Long Cheng. After the passing of my two brothers, we ended up moving closer to Long Cheng.
Nhớ tới thầm lo biết không?
Nhớ tới chừng lông
Muôn trắng đâu, muôn trắng.
Long chén là chỉ maybe you know long chén.
I was there.
Yeah. They moved from Muôn trắng đâu biết không?
Long chén là trong đó quay khám.
Muôn Can. Oh, okay. They moved from Long Cheng to Muôn Can. After the two oldest brothers passed away.
Okay. But what village did you live in?
Có lúc chơi đó mà bé chúng nhiều dùng tới chụp bao thì lú dùng cái chỗ lú sẵn từ nữa bé chụp bao thì lú rò cho thầu xong xa chỗ ý của tiêu lông cái xịt thì bé nhau chỗ lú rò quay khăn.
Because of my age and because I was a lot younger, I was not aware of where I resided or where we resided. After the passing of my brothers in 1970 or 1971, we ended up moving to the area known as Hoi Can. That was the village Hoi Can.
He doesn't, because he was still very young at the time before the two oldest brothers passed away. So he doesn't remember the village, but he remembered the province.
And the province is which one?
Muôn Trăng. Because they were in Long Cheng and then they moved to Muôn Trăng afterwards.
But that's not the province. Were you in Xinquan province?
โอ้ก็จะตอบกันแต่เป็นหล่อย้ายเราโดเสียงควรเลย
Yeah, afterwards.
Afterwards.
Yeah, after the two oldest brothers passed away.
Then they go to Xinquan. But
After the passing of my brothers, I ended up moving. After the passing of my older brothers, my family and we moved into San Juan province.
when you were a little boy, which province did you live in? Xinquan or Huapan or Ponsali or so many provinces?
ก็มาให้ตัวนึงเกลมาเตียวว่านึกจะชัดสิบกว่าคนเป้าเลยคนสาลีกูเป้าเลยเจ้าถอลย้อนตรงลงเจ้งเดินเราเจ้าชิเป้าให้เตียเป้ว่าย้อนตีอูย้อนลิตากันมาเสียงขวางกูยังเป้าเดียวอีลูกมาอย่าลูกรอเตียเจ้าเสียงขวางเจ้าลุ่นตรงเดียวเจ้าพุ่นโอ้ลูกรอเจ้าพุ่นสวรรค์เนาะเจ้าลูกว่าสังเจ้าเสียงขวางแล้วยังมัวลีนอเลยนะแต่ชิมาต่อไปเราย้อนให้คำเราเจ้าจวนเราย้อนเตลุ่นเนี่ยรอซะนะเจ้าชิเป้าจะว่าเตียลูกสังอย่าลูกสังอาจีเลยนั่นน่ะ
Oh,
So when we were younger, although I was aware of where San Juan is, unfortunately, because we were very young, I wasn't aware of exactly where we were. We just knew we were near Hoi Kan, or a village near Longjing.
係頭哥做咩咩學？
做咩咩
頭哥要嗱，我哋全部哋要就攞手釘咯。
lúc rồi mà yêu phụ mình nè, giờ thì lúc yêu của, yêu phụ mình chỉ bé xin đầu xin tua nhất trong phụ mình, thằng đó mà cũng chỉ là những của thà hả, chỉ bé mà học kia rồi trong lông chén nè, chỉ bé là nhau lông chén tàu ao lúc lì xứ, chỉ là mà bé xàm trong lúc rồi phải khám để chỉ cũng tí lâu nữa mà một con chó trong lúc chén này phụ là tống cần năng chỉ mà một con xài trong lúc chén tàu là nhau trong lúc nhỏ rồi phải khám tới nè.
Oh, okay.
I was born in the village known as Puming, and then we moved into Longjing, where we lived in for a couple months, and then we moved into Hoi Kan, where my brothers joined General Vang Pao's military, General Vang Pao's army, and became soldiers and participated in the war.
So, okay, cái coi yêu nhớ cho lui rồi. Pullman. Cái cũng nó có mình chỉ cái cục bia đó này. Okay, he was born in Pullman. Pullman is what the village is called.
Okay.
Yep. And then tàu cá tại tên
nhớ là tôi đầu lúc rồi quay khăm để chỉ biết chết tơ kia là tôi luôn chén.
Lúc Pullman có tới tên có yêu Pullman có biết.
Pullman mà.
Tên này kia mua cho họ tới.
Tôi luôn chén.
Oh, okay. And then after Pullman they ran to Longjing.
So I was born in Puming. The Vietnamese came and attacked the village, and we ended up moving to Longjing for a couple months before we moved to Hoi Kan, where my brothers ended up joining General Vang Pao's army.
Thì nhau là chân tàu ao lúc lì chỉ biết thiết kia là tôi phải khăn lại, là chân là chú chỉ mới biết sao là tôi phải khăn là ôn nào học rồi phải khăn.
And then they were in Longjing for 2 months, and then after that they moved to Waicom, right? Yeah, Waicom. And then that's where the two oldest brothers went to war and passed away. And then after that they moved to San Juan, no Bia. Yeah, they moved to San Juan afterwards, after the two oldest brothers passed away.
To Longcheng?
San Juan afterwards.
Học sinh còn là tập cao ở bên từ tạm thời chỉ bên mà nhớ là tôi sinh quan là nhớ sinh quan.
After Hoi Kan, we moved into San Juan.
Thì sao? Nếu có ô tô đi lâu xỉa ta thì nếu muốn cho lúc tranh muốn cho San Juan nào.
Tập cao tới chờ tới và đi nhà đi nhớ là tới là bộ quay tôi biết ta là na, chỉ biết thiên nhai là mình nhớ lên thôi.
They moved to San Juan.
After my brothers passed away, and after the Vietnamese began to advance, we ended up moving to San Juan.
Actually, after the two oldest brothers passed away, because that village that they were at, all the soldiers took over that village already, so they moved to San Juan.
Okay. Yeah, I was just at Longcheng this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I went, very interesting, very different from what soldier remember. Yeah. I took many photographs to give with my Hmong friends who remember Long Cheng.
Nè từ nè không mua phải lo chế từ nè thay đua lo cho thả hải mong thả hải nè nếu mà cho lại sai thì lại tuyên cho chỉ tàu nó chật chờ nó.
Giờ cái bảo tàng này bảo tàng lấy tới thay mình để bảo tàng.
Yeah, he said.
Yes, it's changed. We've seen a lot of. Yes, it's changed. I've seen a lot of the movies, and it's no longer the same.
Seen the movies, it's really different from what he remembers as well too.
Does he remember General Vang Pao's house at Long Cheng?
Nè tại cái bọn cho cá này phong qua bỏ lúa chế nhớ cho lúa chanh rồi.
Của chừng của thầu bé lọ bé mình nhiều dầu xí bé rồi nhớ tàu tàu bao lúa lì xí mà. Tức là tàu một bỏ để phong lúa chế, ta chỉ ta chỉ nó mà bỏ lúa trong movie, bỏ để phong lúa chế.
Because when we moved to Longjiang, it was only for 2 months, and because we were very young, we never had the opportunity to actually see General Vang Pao's house. But now I've seen several videos, several footage of the general's home.
He said when they moved there to Longcheng, he was still a young kid, so he doesn't remember as well, and he haven't actually seen it. But he's seen it when they moved here to America in movies.
In the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Long Cheng's house, in Vang Pao's house.
Nếu muốn cho này phong qua bỏ lúa chế nhớ lúa chanh mà.
I was in his bedroom.
Oh wow, nếu muốn cho họ nước ra thế nào?
Yeah, now it's empty. Now it's like museum.
Tại vì nó tới trong nhà lúc mình xem tới chỉ mua lá chè nó.
Yeah. After the war ended, when did you and your family leave Laos? What year?
Tàu cá tàu trở lại xí tàu tai tàu lúc xong đã chỉ nên từ tới thầm lọ.
Và lúc cậu ở liền đâu mà thấy cậu chỉ xong và gì cháu ý chỉ bùi vô nè.
Lúc có điวันที่đó chỉ nó.
On December 15th of 1981, I was married. On December 15th, 1981, I was married. I became married. On December 15th of 1981, I married my wife.
Cậu chỉ
để
xong gì cháu ý chỉ bùi vô nè.
thì tàu có yếu vấn đề là nghiên cứu quá
Ta
trong mà
phần đó
yếu.
là nó chỉ lúc xong gì cháu bé lúc chỉ liền đâu và thì gì chỉ bé kia mà hồ và tết cho là chùa tâm của tết chợ thay.
On May 8th, 1983, we made the decision to run out of Laos and and make our way to Thailand. On May 8th, 1983, we made the decision to leave Laos and go to Thailand. On May 8th, 1983, we made the decision to leave Laos and make our way to Thailand.
Ok, thì sao? Tàu có yếu vấn đề nó nên chừng lấy chừng quá trong mà yếu là chịu qua
Tết chợ
là.
tu là.
Tết chợ tù.
Tết tu bé cho là thời gian là ta tết tu là.
Oh, okay.
The question was, when you were married, were you still, when you were married, was there still war or fighting that was happening? Okay. When I was married, when I married my wife, the conflict had already began to be. When I married my wife, the fighting began to settle down. When I married my wife, the village. No. Let's see here. When I married my wife, the fighting has began. When I married my wife, the fighting began to stop. When I married my wife, the fighting was starting to slow down already. No, did do. When I married my wife, the war was coming to an end already.
He said 12/15/81 he married, and then 5/8/83 was when they moved from Laos over to Thailand.
About 10 years after the war ended.
Yes. Và bây giờ cậu đi tàu cá nó bây giờ ở trước cậu đi cầu sông tàu cá.
ra đó là chỉ cho bé cho cũng sẽ rút chỉ liền đâu vấn gì cũng sẽ tàu kia hồ lập tế trục thái tế.
About 10 years after the war ended, I made the decision to leave Laos to come to Thailand.
Tàu cá có thể là thứ một thao ta tàu cầu sông.
Thứ của cái thứ là theo nhân là ta thứ của cái chờ thứ trong này tới.
When I decided to leave Laos, the country was already starting to stabilize under the communist regime.
So 10 years afterwards.
Because the fighting stopped 1973, and then he came 10 years, 1983. In those 10 years after the fighting stopped, was he in his village or was he in the jungle?
Thì nếu cho thầu tết chờ tứ tu lên tới thì nếu chừng nhau vậy đi nhau tổ nhau cho tết ở vậy đi nếu tết kiếm một cho hậu hải trong là lo chỉ tao kiếm một.
Bé tới lò nhau rõ rồi này.
Lo nhau.
The question was, were they still in the village or were they in the jungles? At that time we were already at the village.
Bé là nhau rõ.
Oh, okay.
We came and lived in the village.
He was in the village at that time.
In the village. Then why did he decide to leave the village? Why did he decide?
Nếu hai ta vì lý trả nên họ xả tử, giờ đến đây là nhau hỏi rồi là trả nên họ xả tử nó.
Khó chừng chẳng lúc cha thầu bé của họ kia tôi đồ tới trở thái vì của bé tôi nọ chứ tôi giờ tới trở lại tiếp bé trở đi lâu hơn đó CIA của cho lúc cha đó là cái bé thiệt thiệt chỉ xe thiệt bé có nhau đồ tới trở lại chùa là bé nhau chỉ tàu vì bé một trở đi lâu đó là của cho chỉ giờ đi nó chỉ cũng thiệt lý thiệt chỉ xe cho cũng chỉ nên tạo tôi đồ tới trở thái.
Tử nó.
khó chừng chẳng lúc cha thầu bé của họ kia tôi đồ tới trở thái vì của bé tôi nọ chứ tôi giờ tới trở lại tiếp bé trở đi lâu hơn đó CIA của cho lúc cha đó là cái bé thiệt thiệt chỉ xe thiệt bé có nhau đồ tới trở lại chùa là bé nhau chỉ tàu vì bé một trở đi lâu đó là của cho chỉ giờ đi nó chỉ cũng thiệt lý thiệt chỉ xe cho cũng chỉ nên tạo tôi đồ tới trở thái.
Tử nó.
khó chừng chẳng lúc cha thầu bé của họ kia tôi đồ tới trở thái vì của bé tôi nọ chứ tôi giờ tới trở lại tiếp bé trở đi lâu hơn đó CIA của cho lúc cha đó là cái bé thiệt thiệt chỉ xe thiệt bé có nhau đồ tới trở lại chùa là bé nhau chỉ tàu vì bé một trở đi lâu đó là của cho chỉ giờ đi nó chỉ cũng thiệt lý thiệt chỉ xe cho cũng chỉ nên tạo tôi đồ tới trở thái.
Most importantly, at that time, I made the decision to come to Thailand due to several factors. One, because our leaders made the decision to leave the country and came to Thailand. Two, my brothers participated as participated in the war on behalf of the United States CIA. Because of this, we made the decision. We came to a conclusion that we couldn't stay behind due to our involvement in the war. Because of these factors, I made the decision to bring my family to Thailand.
khó chừng chẳng lúc cha thầu bé của họ kia tôi đồ tới trở thái vì của bé tôi nọ chứ tôi giờ tới trở lại tiếp bé trở đi lâu hơn đó CIA của cho lúc cha đó là cái bé thiệt thiệt chỉ xe thiệt bé có nhau đồ tới trở lại chùa là bé nhau chỉ tàu vì bé một trở đi lâu đó là của cho chị do lý nó chị cũng theo lý chỉ sẽ cho cũng chỉ năng tạo tôi đồ thế trở thành.
Most importantly, we made the decision. The decision to go to Thailand came with many factors. Most importantly, the fact that our leaders left the country, and the fact that my brothers participated were involved in the war on behalf of the CIA, and the.
Okay. He no.
Khó chừng chăng lúc chơi thầu bé và họ kia tôi đồ tới trở thái vì và bé tôi nói chứ tôi giờ tới trở lại kia bé trở tiền lâu hơn đó CIA và cho tôi lúc chơi đó là cái bé thiệt chỉ xe thì bé có nhau đồ tới trở lại chùa là bé nhau chỉ tàu vì bé mua trở tiền lâu đó là và cho cái giờ lý nó chỉ cũng theo lý chỉ xe cho cũng chỉ nên tạo tôi đồ tới trở thái.
Most importantly, I made the decision to move to Thailand or to leave our country is due to several factors. One is because our leaders have left the country. Two, my family was involved, especially my brothers were involved in the war on behalf of the United States CIA. And because of their involvement, we knew that we couldn't stay behind due to the fear of persecutions. So I made the decision to bring my family to Thailand.
Okay. He said they decided to run to Thailand because their leader, General Rin Pao, has came to America, and he also has siblings that was in the war, fighting, was on General Rin Pao's side.
Yes.
So his family was not safe. That's why they decided to come to Thailand.
Yes. How did he get to Thailand?
Thì nếu hai mù cho thay tế này mù li trà mù nó.
Bé của tôi thái tế tôi bảo tế cho tôi thái tế giao họ mua cho thêm là cho nên nhớ tôi thái tế lỡ lọt tôi tế cho là chùa chỉ lỡ và họ lọt tỏ lỡ cho cứ tê chỉ của theo lịch chỉ xe cho của chế năng và cho thêm để lòng tôi thái tế.
Yes. How did he get to Thailand?
Thì nếu hai mù cho thay tế này mù li trà mù nó.
Bé của tôi thái tế tôi bảo tế cho tôi thái tế giao họ mua cho thêm là cho nên nhớ tôi thái tế lỡ lọt tôi tế cho là chùa chỉ lỡ và họ lọt tỏ lỡ cho cứ tê chỉ của theo lịch chỉ xe cho của chế năng và cho thêm để lòng tôi thái tế.
We were able to go to Thailand or leave our country, Laos, and go to Thailand because there were several teams with several individuals that had already escaped to Thailand who came back to Laos to bring their family or help their family cross into Thailand. Upon hearing that there were individuals that were coming back into Laos to get their families to go into Thailand, I made the decision to take my family and leave with those individuals.
Okay. He said they ran from Laos to Thailand with the help of people they already ran to Thailand and they came back to get their family. So he decided to go with them since they know the road. So he decided to take his family to join that team. And that's how he and his family crossed over, was with the help of the people that was already on the Thailand side.
The people who gave him help, were they relatives, somebody that he was related to, or were they just Hmong people who helped other Hmong people?
Okay. Thì cho chế nên qua lời ba này làm cho sát tổ có bộ báo lời biết có chế nên lý họ giúp mong sang trọng sự.
Bên mong sĩ chỉ cho thằng bé sĩ thải thì bé sĩ tao là chúng mà cho thêm để lò sĩ chỉ của hai trâu cho thêm để anh thì nhớ trong lúc tết trời nó nhua kêu nó hậu thế chỉ đi chạy nên lò lại chỉ của cho của chỉ nên cho nên một tết trời hai xứ nó chỉ nửa của thì do đi lò bé một tò bé nhiều thế bé gì là bé u lò tôn để này và lò dê tu ra nó chỉ bé mà đi mổ nó xích chỉ thổi lấy lọt cho thì cũng chỉ đi cho cũng chỉ nên cho lấy lọt là
They
So when I had discussions with the individuals that were coming back to bring their families that were left behind in Laos to Thailand, I had discussions with these individuals and we had an understanding. I spoke with them and told them that because they're back and they're here to bring their family members or take their family members to Thailand, I wish to also take my family to go with them. They made an appointment and said that they said to me that they're here to take their mothers and their fathers, and once they get closer to our village, we will meet up at a certain location and we will leave together to Thailand.
có chỉ xí dây đi chợ
We were not related to these individuals in any way.
They are not related. It's just Mong that he heard rumors going around, so he asked around, and he got to the leader of that team that was helping them cross, and that team actually came back to get their parents.
Yes.
Yes. So he told them, he asked them if they can cross with them over to Thailand, and that team told him that yes, we are on our way to get our parents, but on our way back from getting our parents, you can come with us. So on their way back, he got his family ready, and then they just came with a team.
Okay. How many people were in his group that left the village with these helpers from Thailand? How many people? 5 people, 10 people, 20 people? How big was the group?
Okay. Ba ở nhau cho có lối gió nè, lớn cho ba đỡ nó xem mua bữa trước là nhau có lối gió nè, rồi lớn
cú
cho.
tế cái vấn sai là giờ mình cho cú chiến này kia cú giờ gì lăng chỉ là bao là lọt tòn mà là lọt đồ sao và nhiều lọt tòn như này thế này chỉ cú chỉ bao thì chọn được mà chia nhau cú lối gió nè chỉ cú chiến này rồi giờ gì lăng xứ chỉ và chọn được lọt thế chỉ bé một bé châu lăng ra này bé và bé làm cái sự này.
So the individuals that were coming back to take their family members, we weren't exactly sure how many people of those were from my village specifically, but for my family specifically, there was 8 of us, in addition to the other individuals from other villages and other groups or other villages or area. Together, there was 30 of us total.
Okay, from his village, only his family, which is 8 people total in his family, but there was a total of 30 people total that is from different villages, because the team that came, they went to different villages and they came and get their people only.
Yes, I understand. What did they pack to take with them? When they left the village, what did they take?
Thầu có tờ nên lối gió đó nên ca đã chỉ sự.
Bây giờ họ nói rằng là một chế ý các chủ nhà trì các tàu chậm mà nó có ba ý giờ đi bây giờ một cái mùng bùa chỉ có mất tua chỉ có mất ký và có khổ khổ ấy có sót trừ nữa chỉ thâu quan đó là chỉ lúc chạy của lòng từ của nhà cưới ra và anh có trâu mai thì anh 16 nữa mà chỉ của cưới ra cả chấp hoạt ô ra và anh có trâu đó họ của và ít tu đó là ít tu và của trời nữa đó chỉ là cưới ra cả chỉ là một cái tu thêm thế chỉ là và ít là ít trái nhà cả thế.
When we were coming, what we prepared with us was 1, enough rice for all of us. 2, we had a lot of animals left over, or we had a lot of animals that we were taking care of.
What did they take?
thầu có tờ nên lúc đó nên cả đã chỉ sự
bây giờ họ lúc rồi là một chế ý các chủ nhà trì các tàu chậm mà nó có ba ý giờ đi bây giờ một cái mùng bùa chỉ có mấtตัวchỉ có mất kí và có khổ khổ có sót trừ nữa chỉ thâu con đó là chỉ lúc chạy của lòng từ của nhà cứ ra và anh có trâu mai thì anh 16 nữa mà chỉ của cứ ra cả chấp phật ô ra và anh có trâu đó họ của và ít tu đó là ít tu và của trời nữa đó cho nên cứ ra cả chỉ là một cái tu thêm thế chỉ là và ít là ít ra nhà cả thế chỉ biết chúng ba lên đó là một là sự theo và chấp lại giờ ta vậy có của family chỉ biết của những và của nhà theo của chỉ biết những và ba của tôi chấp lại giờ và biết cho lọt là đi chỉ những giờ tôi gì lúc nào tôi biết gì nữa.
So when we came, we prepared enough rice for our family and for. So when we made the decision to come, when we made the decision to leave Laos, we prepared enough rice for us. We also had several chickens and pigs, which we ended up butchering and drying them so that they became some sort of jerky, in order to ensure that there was no strong odor or smell. In addition, I carried with me an M16. My uncle, or one of my uncles, actually, one of my brothers-in-law actually carried with them an AK-47, along with other members of the group also carried with themselves an AK-47. In addition, we also brought with us 8 tubes. In addition, we prepared tubes. Starting back from the beginning. When we made the decision to leave, I was able to prepare enough rice for my. When we made the decision to leave, When we made the decision to leave, we prepared enough rice for the journey. We also had several chicken and pigs left, so we ended up butchering all of them and drying them into some sort of jerky to ensure that there was not a strong odor. I myself was carrying an M16. My brother-in-laws and other members of the group were carrying AK-47s. I also made the decision to prepare tubes for my family to cross the river. I had 8 tubes total.
Okay. They packed food. Yep. There's pork and chicken that they dried it so it wouldn't there's no smell anymore. And he said he also have an N16 that he carried with him, and there's 3 team leaders with a group from Thailand. 3 of them also have gun as well. And he said his family, they bought some tubings from around the village, and they have 8 of them as well.
What is that word, tubing?
Yeah, those those black tube that you have?
Inner tube?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did they take some silver? What about the jewelry? The silver that the women wear around the neck? Did they have their jewelry to take with them?
Bọn cái ở đây cú tên nó lý sơ tên nó.
Bây giờ lúc cha bây giờ bảo tê chỉ bây giờ bắt nô sẽ bây giờ một cô đó chỉ nhẹ cho lỗ mua mà.
Thế nên bọn cái thế.
Ngắt tao.
When we lived in Laos, we do live very basic. We didn't have any jewelries, so we didn't bring anything. But the elders had a lot of silver bars, and we did bring those with us.
Okay. They don't have jewelries actually, because they were, and back then we don't really have jewelries, but they have those. I don't know if you've seen those money from old code. Those fake money. You know what those
I
are?
do.
Yeah, yes. They have those, so they brought those.
Some silver.
Yeah.
When they traveled, where did they hide their money?
Thầu nên kia nó nên muốn nên lý nhảy giải cho khó tử.
Cho bên lò chỉ những cái chuyện được đua chỉ và dân nó cho cũng mà liệt theo cái này chỉ và bây giờ và ngàn được đua cho họ thì bên là chơi là một lỡ nó chỉ cố cứ ra anh có trâu đã lâu cứ ra tụ thông dụng được cứ ra cả chỉ bên là để cho thì nó chỉ thấy chúng một bản sự là dễ dùng nè dùng một phò là bỏ dùng một phò là chỉ cho thấy chỉ cả là dễ dùng chỉ bên thiên là tôi chỉ nhẹ nó trở đi.
So when we decided to cross, we were carrying the silver actually on our body. We had it in our pockets, but when we crossed over the river and we arrived to Thailand, I was carrying an M16, and my brother-in-law was carrying AK-47. And when the Thais saw us that we were armed with guns, they actually did not approach us. We were afraid of being robbed, but because we had guns, we were able to bring our silver with us.
He said they carried the money on them, and so money was on them. The reason why when they crossed to Thailand, Thai people didn't come and steal their money was because they had guns. So because Thai people saw that they have guns, they didn't come and steal money.
Good, that's good. Yeah. And was there a shaman with them?
Sẽ bấm mua ít tu shaman cho nên nó tu ổn định nè.
Bên lọ bên chân đó chỉ mua nữa.
Chỉ mua chỉ nên nó.
At that time when we were coming, there were no shamans with us.
There was no shaman with them.
Okay, so nobody took the drum or the sword or any shaman tools. No shaman with them.
Thì chỉ mua chỉ nên cho nên thì cho nên như chuyện gái ở đi cho chỉ nên cho không đi nào bây giờ.
No one carried anything.
And they didn't take any tools. No tools to grow rice or.
Giờ đi bằng ga không tên nó rồi bắt cho món nó nè lên nè.
Bé ở chính ba đi chủ yếu trách gì à? Chiều dù cho chúng nó theo ở đi là một theo vòng pha và tàu luôn tại và chủ yếu trổ tàu của sinh.
We didn't bring anything with us except for a knife, seeds, and also a lighter.
They have a lighter, that they brought a lighter so they can make fire.
Yeah.
A knife, and they already have rice that they pack with them.
They packed rice. Good. Okay. Now, they could not go by the road because soldiers would see them on the road. Did they go through the jungle?
Thế nên mù nó thế nên mù cho ta hạ sống lấy nên mù kia là cái mù nó.
Bên lọ thì bên chỉ là lọ chiều đòn nữa, bên lọ của hai dòng lọ là xứ. Bên lọ tàu còn nó chỉ có một bìa cái này tiếp bìa này cũng bìa cái mình còn lấy chỉ mặc số mình. Ok, thì bên lọ tàu là on nung thế đã số thì bên của lọ trâu ít tu thêm tu bận nè thì bên mà họ lọ tàu không thể là cái của bìa mình chỉ nó sẽ như của mà chỉ.
When we made the decision to leave Laos and come and go to Thailand, we actually did not take any of the trails and any of the roads. We went through the jungle to ensure that we were hidden. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about my story here. We've been traveling for 2 days, and within that 2 days, after that 2 days, one of the team leader's wife actually stepped on a landmine and was killed. I will proceed forward and tell any more of the stories, or if he has any questions, I can continue from here.
Có hai tiếng này là tàu on nu.
Thế
Tá số thì lô cho tụi thiên tụi bọn nhẹ nó bị hỏng.
là chú lúc mình bắt đầu với con này.
Thì tụi bọn nhẹ.
We traveled for 2 days and an afternoon, and then the team leader's wife, stepped on a landmine.
Chú nó đó. Thì họ luôn đấy giờ luôn nhau
có cái chân tầm này vậy có chỉ là cho luôn ra chỉ nửa kỳ tàu chỉ là ra chỉ tàu có trâu sắn đồ na chỉ là chuông luôn ra chỉ luôn mình một tàu tôi chỉ nửa sai cái tàu nó đồ biển nó chỉ non chỉ nhét ta đi cho chân đó mà cho mình chỉ tàu rồi á sao mà hôm nay nó chỉ trâu xuống nó đó là mình sai cái tàu của tàu ta đi bộ.
The team leader's wife actually stepped on the landmine, which was placed between 2 stumps. Because she was a little shorter, she wasn't able to fully cross over the 2 stumps or the wood or branches. So she ended up stepping on that landmine and setting off that landmine. That mine actually blew apart her legs. It didn't injure her from the waist up, but her legs were blown to pieces.
整翻成那个比较
别老到我周给种东西就别老鸟种的就我忙的就应节这些就没头鸟了有老么就得吃太了别活老到安东西呢正抽狗的弄嘛别贴了抽太低呢就别贴到我贴这些么养到半年的孬就更多就半年的多就记得么付了那路钱的这别老了
So after she stepped in the landmine, she was actually still alive. So we ended up taking a break, and we were debating whether we should go back and surrender to the Vietnamese, or if we should continue the journey. We didn't want us to surrender to the Vietnamese or the communists because we were afraid, but we knew that the journey was still 10 days or more. So we ended up giving her opium, and she ended up passing away or overdosing from the opium, and we ended up burying her at that shelter there.
Oh, you know, you're opium. Oh. Okay. He said they came through the jungles. 2 days and a half later, one of the team's wives stepped on a grenade that was hid in between. It was a tree and the outgrown roots. Yeah, and because she was a little bit shorter, she wasn't able to step over the outgrown roots of a tree. So she stepped on a grenade, and her entire leg. It hurt her entire leg, and because of that, because they were only in the jungle for 2 days, they still have 10 more days to go, and they debate whether to go back to the village or to continue on, and because they have already ran from the village, going back wasn't a choice, and because going on still have 10 more days, so they decided to give opium to the wife, and that night later in the morning she passed away. Yes.
Yeah. No medicine. No.
No medicine.
But they have opium.
Yeah. He knows. You know that I work in Laos to take away the bomb. Does he know that?
Có một bao tiền nữ hoa lử cho tìm lo nữ mua cho nè ấy vậy đi cho bọn cho chế nè có bao mà vậy
bao nè mỗi tuần ăn cao nó mình chỉ giờ cũng bỏ một vị thế ta chỉ tông chỉ kiến là
oh he said he's seen it in movies but not
I've heard and seen him in the movies removing landmines and fragments, but I've never met him in person.
Don't think you guys
because I was a school principal for 23 years, but I quit the principal 18 years ago.
Oh.
18 years ago I finished as principal, and for 15 years, every year I go to Laos for 3 months and blow up the bomb.
Nè nữ qua principal nhớ tàu gì lên núi chạy gần đó nè nữ qua tàu cầu gì xong nó để nữ tàu để đứa tàu cầu chỉ xong nó cho xong để nữ bay bay núi lì cho tìm lo để nữ mua cho trong bàn ở chạy tàu đó nè cho lắm bữa nữa nè để nữ bay cho xong bay núi lì nó nè
Yeah, the little bomb that they call the bombi, I have blown up 1,600.
Wow, nữ hay tiêu tao nè mê tao nè lắm mê là không bông bì nữa nè tao nữ tới chạy tao ít thả tao bỏ lú rồi nó
cóภาษาเนี่ยที่กูถัดต้องไม่เขาก็ส่วนจีแค่ตรงนี้กูเช่นน่ะ
Are you alright if I continue and tell just a little bit more about my story, my family's story?
To tell you a little bit a story from in the jungle from his side of the story. Yeah.
หลังจากที่โจตุปนิเดว่าลูกหนึ่งเดโจตุปนิเดตาจะเป็นหล่อโตว่าเก่าอ่อนนุ่งนะจะเป็นอยู่หล่อลัดได้เหรอจะเป็นหล่อเจ้ารุ่นเดว่าลูกอะไรจะลูกจมน้ำนะ
After the death of the team leader's wife, the team and the group continue our journey on for almost 12 days, right to the point where when we arrived close to the Mekong River. right when we're about to cross the Mekong River, as restarting.
Cầu gì xong nó thì nữ tàu thì đứa tàu cầu chỉ xong nó cho xong thì nữ bay bé lúc gì cho tìm lo thì nữ cho xong bé lúc
The little bum that they call the bum bee, I have blown up 1,600.
wow rồi luôn
có bữa sáng này thì cũng tháp tao mình họ có chuẩn chỉ kết
Would it be alright if I continue and tell a little bit more about the
tell you a
story?
little bit a story from in the jungle from his
I
side
wanna
of the
hear.
story.
Yeah.
là cho thằng cái trâu từ bên này để lúc mình để trâu từ bên này để ta
After a little bit after the death of the wife of the team leader,
lọ tàu cầu on nung này
we continued the journey for 12 days.
bé yếu lọ là đây là chỉ bé là
We were about to, we have arrived at the Mekong River and we're preparing to cross the Mekong River.
vấn đề và lúc là thì lúc trong na nè chiều
We arrived by the hill that was very close to the river, which is known as the Dong Na.
bé là nhỏ trong tàu chiều bé yếu lọ là đây chỉ trong tàu bên này mới từ mình nhỏ giật trâu
As we were making preparations to cross the river, at that time, my wife and I had a child who was 6 months.
thì giờ ít từ nhỏ tú
It was a son.
chỉ bé yếu lọ là đây chỉ cho thì mà thì họ nó bé muốn đã mà ở lúc
And as we were preparing to leave cross the river, we were being briefed by the team leaders there.
này nhỏ xa chỉ bé yếu pan trung đã là mù chỉ giờ mình nhỏ qua chỉ trả nhá là bỏ nhá là rau kế chỉ nhá là bé trâu xí tuần đã
There's going to be 3 groups, 2 groups on the side, each side, and 1 group in the middle. We have to be careful because if we're crossing the Mekong River and one of the kids starts crying and any of the Vietnamese or communist regime soldiers were on patrol hears us, there will be a gun battle.
nó chỉ bên này ưu tiên là do có mấy dân rồi cho mình nhỏ và mày đó hồ nó nè là do có nó nè
The team leaders actually instructed everyone to give opium to all the kids that were younger.
chỉ ưu tiên tàu mua ít kho rồi ít cho mình nhỏ khó
They instructed us to, me and my wife specifically, to give opium to our child.
sẽ chấp được cho họ của thảo nó nè chỉ theo tàu mua khởi dân rồi ít cho mình nhỏ giờ trâu lúc lì xứ
So we followed their orders and we gave opium to our 6-month-old son.
chỉ mất tàu đầu rồi chỉ tập bé là đây làm sao ta y đun đa đây
And then we began to cross the Mekong River, but unfortunately it seems that we gave a little bit too much opium to our son.
chỉ ít cho mình nhỏ xỉa rồi lúc chạy của tập bé là đây là trong đun đa đời
When we were crossing the Mekong River, our son ended up passing away halfway through the crossing.
chỉ hai trong nơi thì bé là đây nó giờ khó nhua cưng gồ bé và làm là đây mà cố giờ tụ khi ít cho lúa rồi cũng bắt
Crossing the Mekong River was extremely difficult. I had a rope tied around me and it was connected to my wife.
chỉ bao nhiêu họ khi ít cho lúa một trâu tuần đá khi ít cho tông đá một trâu phong đá chỉ bé xịt giá thì nó là đây là một xứ
We were all connected to other individuals or other members of the group.
chỉ tập bé là cho rồi tiền tụ đây chỉ bé là nhỏ rồi đừng lo lúa và chơi bé là một cổ cho họ
When we crossed and we made it across the Mekong River, we ended up taking shelter at one of the shelters that were nearby.
chỉ bé là quý im họ rồi giá cam thôi chỉ tụi mình nhột xỉa là chỉ cũng chỉ mất trách nhiệm cho là khơi tụi lúc khó rồi không lo lúa và chơi
Upon when we were resting at that shelter, I ended up taking my knife and using it to open up to dig a grave.
Chị mới đây con giờ cho lọc khử tụi mình nhỏ chị phục.
And wrapped my son, my 6-month-old son, in the cloth and buried him there.
Rồi sẽ chị chỉ lọc vào lúc năng trù và hồ sùn.
Chị có hai tờ mình nhỉ? Tôi in ra đây nọ.
Cho tầm lúc đã đi nè, chị nó xìa rồi nè.
Chị thầu con đấy chỉnh nhau tới chấm lô nó với họ.
Bây giờ tới chấm lọc tôi đầu tiên chạy thái là ta chỉ cho lúc đã đi nè, ô lúc đi tôi cho lúc đã đi sẽ chị tụi mình nhỏ nó với lò lúc đó. Ý lò đó cơ nó sẽ chị từ con này nó cổ thế này.
So just to clarify, they were crossing the Mekong.
Chị tụi mình nhỏ xìa trong lúc xìa hận thôi.
Chị thầu.
So just to clarify, I fed when we were crossing the river. My son ended up making a gurgling noise and ended up passing away when we were crossing the Mekong River. My wife was carrying him, and all we could recall was hearing him making a gurgly sound.
Nên chỉnh nhau tôi xăm lô nó với họ.
Nhung lúc đã đi rồi.
Chị mình nhổ mó phàu tôi hỏng ra đây
nó
nữa.
bé tí sản này giờ bé và qua luật đây tí mà bé tí mới dân nó tí ổn thu đây là nè tí lao là nè ok sang thu đây tí chỉ thọ bé và qua luật đây là chọn đúng đa đây nè chỉ tụi mình nhỏ hồ hồ là chỉ tụi mình nhỏ chỉ là chọn đúng đa đây chỉ tụi mình nhỏ thua rồi thọ và nơi nhà chọn nơi cho dân hồ hồ nó chỉ thua đúng đa đây chỉ bé mà làm đúng đa đây đó là tôi tìm lo tí thái nè.
So just to clarify, we gave opium to my son when we were still on Laos territory, and then we crossed the Mekong River, and that is where we assume that my son passed away. My wife was carrying him on her back, and we heard him making a gurgling noise, but we weren't sure exactly what happened, but we assumed that was when he passed away from the overdose of opium. So we crossed onto Thailand territory, and that's where we ended up burying him.
Sau tí chị thấy mà tôi qua đi bắt đầu với hai chị lấy những thiệt rồi tôi bỏ bé mà chị lấy nô mà chị qua đi nên lọ của mình nên lọ nó chị bé chị chỉ mua thiệt.
When we arrived on the Thailand property, the Thailand individuals or residents ended up approaching us and asking us if there's anybody else that crossed or came with us. The Thai asked us how many of us were here, and we said we didn't know. We said we knew that there was a lot of us, but we didn't know how many made it across. After that, the Thai residents ended up leaving. The Thai residents did not want to approach us or come close to us because we were carrying guns and we were all armed. That night we slept at a shelter, and I held my son actually in my arms as I slept that night. And then when we woke up the next morning, that's when we found, and then we woke up the next morning, and that's when I was for sure that my child had passed away, and that's when I decided to bury him, wrapped him in a cloth, and used my knife to dig a hole and bury him within that shelter.
Thái mà thấy mùi lúc vào nó lò á, chị lọp bên lòng cổ hồ thế này.
Chị giờ
Provide a vacha is a bamboo house or a house that was a makeshift house or home covered with banana trees.
Really banana tree นะพี่
dạ cái loại nhau trâu hồn rồi lúc bắt trước đã đá hồn gì chỉ là một phổ trâu hồn là xứ bên trên mặt lọt trâu phải phun nhảy ban chế
After that, we ended up going to the the leader of the town chief's home.
Okay. He said 12 days after the team leader's wife passed away, so it was 12 days later they got to the mountain was called Mount Na. When they got there, they have a baby boy that was 6 months old. There was a mountain because there was two mountains. They were on Mount Na, and there was another mountain on the other side. And because those two mountains have soldiers on each side, so the team said any family with kids, we have to give them opium so they will go to sleep. And because if we cross and the kids cry, then they will get found out and they will get killed. So they give their 6-month-old baby boy opium, so he would go to sleep. And then when they were crossing the river, halfway through the Mekong River, the baby boy passed away, probably from the overdose of the opium. And then when they get to the other side of the river, there was soldiers that came and asked, how many of you guys are there? If there's more people coming, and they were like, yes, there's more people coming. There's a lot of people coming that still are crossing the river. And because they have guns with them, the soldiers, they ran back. They didn't come and help. And then later on, there was other soldiers that came and took them in. And they buried the child. There was a bunch of banana trees that was, and so they were in that banana trees area. They were hiding in the area, and that was where they buried their child, the 6-month-old boy. Yeah. So he said that's his saddest part of him and his family was the passing of the little boy.
Yeah, of course. If the baby had died in the village, they would have gone and got the jacket, the placenta from when he was born, and they would have had a proper funeral. But when you die away from your home, it's very sad because you couldn't do the proper funeral. Do you know what I mean about the jacket?
Yes.
You,
Nếu hai tia ấy đi thầu bé vô nó chỉ nhưng tu ấy đi tu nữ tử cho họ plan nhiêu rồi để bé mong nhưng mỗi sài nó mà dọ mỗi sài để thầu thì do thì nữ tôi nhớ cho tỏ gió nó chỉ nên nhưng một khâu tụng đỡ lo thì như qua luôn tình có dọ để xem ai bị mình nhỏ tới nếu lo in chắc cái thế tới lo để nó thì nhưng một khâu chỉ lấy tên đỡ liền mà dọ
mình nhỏ mẹ sẽ giờ bé chú actually
Because it was just a small little child, we didn't do any actual formal funeral processions or funeral or conduct a funeral ceremony for the child.
He said he dig just a little hole right there, and they just bury the child right there
what
without
else could
anything.
he do? What else could he do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Nếu tại ôi cha là ôi chỉ tao thì nên đỡ xưa tôi sẽ cơ nó.
Does he know that the same thing happened to many women and men in Wausau? Does he know? So many in Wausau? Same thing?
Oh, what do you mean?
His story is very sad, and maybe he feels alone, like only happened to his family. But it happened to so many families, so many.
Nếu hay tia nhưng mà trong trẻ nên ở mù ý là nhưng mà mình nhỏ lò thì như xỉa nên đỡ nhưng mà trong tủ như nhớ cho họ sợ nó thế.
bé cháu kia tới chậm rọt tôi chỉ nhưng cháu tí từ chữ bự nên xài nên cháu tôi
All of us who ran from Laos or decided to leave Laos to come to Thailand shares the same stories, the same similarities. Especially the same story with all those that decided to leave Laos and can make their way to Thailand shares a very common story.
Thái muốn chúa gọi tua tàu qua đây chỉ tí tu số là những tua trục thay tế tua nâng dòng những cơ chỉ đi kia đã bám một tế rồi là cũng mua.
There's been stories of individuals or family members or those individuals that decided to leave Laos on a boat who was trying to escape to Thailand, but were betrayed and were thrown overboard and ended up making their way to crossing the Mekong River alone or being the sole survivor. There has been those stories as well. There's been those individuals that escaped alone and had to live without any family members as well too. It is really sad, and we've heard stories of individuals that made the decision to leave Thailand and go back to Laos as well.
Yeah.
I also know that there are several other individuals as well too who shares a story very similar to mine, where they ended up giving opium to their child, and their child ended up overdosing and passing away. I understand what he's expressing.
Said everyone that ran from Laos to Thailand all went through the same path. So everyone, almost everyone experienced the same experiences that he have, from child that have passed away, or from soldiers that tipped over their boats or that got killed, and the only family that made it through the river. There's a whole bunch of other stories, and there's everyone that went through it almost went through the same thing.
Yeah, because he's number 10. 10 who have told me same story about the baby dying. At the museum, many mothers came through, talked to me, and at the museum say, I tell you secret. I don't talk about to other people, but my baby, we give opium and my baby go to sleep and my baby doesn't wake up. First time, I surprised. Second time, surprised. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth, seventh, eighth, and today he's number 10. 10 people in Wasa tell me same story. Same story. Baby died because of too much opium.
Nếuแต่ก็giờ tụi thích cậu khen sau ra đan định gì vậy nó điแต่thọ nó chịu nhớ tụi nó lúc mình sẽ mà mua tết tu nhẹ chạy tua thì là hai tiền là khen nữ rồi là tôi chỉ biết trong lúc tôi là khen nữ hai tiền thọ là ra đây thì là mua chua cho mình nhỏ nó thì mình nhỏ chỉ sợ là thì nữ thì thôi rồi là khen mà nữ những surprise nó nữ những chỉ chọn chân nữ chỉ chọn chân nữ chọn thích all là nữ chỉ chân là cái thì chọn thích